In this session, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a couple of the bits and pieces that I have collected along the way that have made my life a little bit easier as a product photographer. Now, depending on where you are in your journey, you might have some of these bits and pieces, you might have seen some of these things used before. I just want to be able to give you a little bit of advice and hopefully give you a little bit of a leg up so you can keep your eye open for these bits and pieces as you come along them, you know, along life's way. So I'm going to start here. This here is, when you buy a GoPro, this comes to cover and hold the GoPro. That's part of the packaging. That's a piece of acrylic. I've kept that because it's a really nice platform. It allows me to be able to take my product, put it on there, and now I've got some light that comes from underneath and I don't have those shadows as I would if it was sitting on a flat bench that has no clarity underneath. Piece of acrylic. We've got a whole bunch of these that we've collected from lots of different bits and pieces. Find acrylic, keep it, comes in really handy. That's acrylic, okay? Other times when you're unwrapping things, you might find pieces of foam. This came from a fridge, okay? It was there to prop something up in the fridge. It's dense foam, works really well. It's white, so it reflects light, and other times you might get a piece like this where it's white and then you paint the other side black. So now you can use it to reflect light, but you can also, the black side, you can kill light. So foam comes in lots of different shapes and sizes. If you have the space, collect bits and pieces of it. It does come in very handy. That's foam. Platforms. We inevitably have built lots of little bits and pieces like this to hold up different products. Now, depending on what your product is, will determine how you need to build what you need to build. This is one that we use when we shoot taps. It's basically 3 pieces of wood. This is 90 by 35, 90 by 35, 2 of those, and a piece of plywood. The plywood is screwed to those, and I've cut here 2 holes with a hole saw, and the diameter is wide enough so I can put my tap, screw it in from the bottom, and there's nothing here to reflect in my tap. This maybe took 10 minutes to build, painted it white, done. That sits in our warehouse and we use it when we need it. Really handy. Okay, here's another one. 2 pieces of timber screwed together. Now, this is white gaff. Now, I've used white gaffer tape here because we didn't have time to paint it when we made this, and it allows me to be able to hold things like bits of reflective card. There, here's my clamp. Let's use that one. There. Now I can arrange this around my product anywhere I need it to go. It allows me to hold bits and pieces up. This works really, really well in lots of different ways. Okay? Again, 2 pieces of timber, 2 screws, and you're done. Really handy. Okay. This platform. This little platform here, we built this to shoot bottles and glasses and things like that. This works really well when you have got a product and you need to bring your lights up real close. So this, again, is a piece of plywood. I've drilled a hole in the middle, so I've drawn an X through it. There's the X there, so I can find the center. I've put a bolt through it and put some nuts to make it a little bit fatter. So now it fits in one of my light stands. And you'll see us use this when we're photographing bottles. Bottle goes on top, light can come real close. Done. Really, really handy to make one of these. Okay. This here is something that I made probably about 8 years ago. We photographed a whole bunch of wheelchairs, and what we needed was a really quick and simple way to be able to bring the wheelchairs up and have them lined up in exactly the same way every single time. I think we had 30 or 40 wheelchairs, so I built this. This is 2 pieces of timber and 2 screws. The wheelchairs came in, they'd go hard up against this edge and then hit this lip over here. We'd pull it out, we'd photograph the wheelchair. We'd bring this back in and it would hit the sides. We'd roll the wheelchair out, roll the new one in. And every time we rolled them in and out and in and out, they always ended up in this exact angle. Something like this only took a few minutes to make, but I've used it not only for the wheelchairs, but we've used it for hundreds of other bits and pieces. Really, really handy to make something like that. Okay. Next, steel little billets. Okay, these are steel offcuts from 100 different places. Okay, they're really good to counterweight bits and pieces. So this is just a piece of metal offcut. I've wrapped it with white gaffer tape, so it does weigh a fair bit and allows me to counterweight bits and pieces when we need to. I've got them in a few different shapes and sizes. They sit in a drawer. When we're photographing something, these come in really, really handy. Now, let's move on to diffusing light. Now, there are a couple of ways that we in this course will show you how to diffuse light. And one of the main ways we do it is with this Lee Filter 216. Now, this stuff here comes in a roll. It's 1.5 meters wide by I think about 7 or 8 meters long, maybe even 10 meters long. But that roll, depending on where you buy it, is anywhere from $70, $80, $90 to $100, $120, okay? It's not cheap. It is extremely effective, and I would recommend that over anything else I'm about to show you. However, if the budget doesn't allow for something like this, you do have a couple of options. First option is this. This here you buy from a party supply store. It's 1.2 meters wide and it's thin plastic tablecloth. Okay, this is thin plastic disposable tablecloth. You buy this at party supply stores. It works okay. It's not as nice as the Lee Filter stuff, but if this is $100, this is $10. It's a big difference between one and the other. If the budget doesn't allow for that, this works really well. Okay, if you can't get something like this, I would recommend baking paper. This is a roll of baking paper. You buy this at your supermarket. It comes in different widths. This is the widest one that I could find in our supermarket, and that's it there. Now, the benefit of this is this being baking paper is extremely heat resistant. So if it goes near a light, probably not going to catch fire. This is a piece of the Lee 216, and that's the baking paper. Okay, there are very, very, very close similarities between the others. And truth be told, I used this for a long, long, long time before I even knew about this stuff or even the Lee Filter stuff. Okay, baking paper, great. And the fact that it's heat resistant, massive bonus. So baking paper, really quick, cheap, easy way to get you out of a bind. Okay, that's there. Tennis balls. These are cheap. You get a razor blade, you cut a hole in it here. This allows you to put it on the bottom of your light stand so you don't scratch the floor. Or sometimes when you've got arms of light stands sticking out, you stick that over like this and no longer a hazard to walk in and put someone's eye out. Tennis ball, really, really handy. Last thing I'm going to show you is this. This is a lampshade, okay? This is a lampshade that I bought from IKEA. I've cut a hole in the top of it over here and made it a little bit wider. And this works amazing when we're trying to photograph something small and shiny. Now, if I'm trying to photograph that in a studio, I need to kind of block everything out so I don't have any reflections. Or whack that on top. If I put that on top, now all the light is going through this and diffusing. I've got enough space here to put my camera and camera lens, and anytime I'm using this, I'm always photographing something small. So it's much easier to do that than to build my entire studio and stop any reflections. So that works really well. That was from IKEA, and I think it was about $18. Now, the very, very last thing I'm going to show you is these frames. The diffusion material, I would recommend that. I can't recommend it enough. And this is how we use it. We get a bunch of timber and we build frames like this, and then we stretch that Lee 216 over it. And it's really, really easy to make. So you grab your timber. Now this is 40 by 20 mil timber, and you work out how big you need one of these. These are 750 by 750. I've got 150 by 150. I've got 3 meters by 1.5 meters. We've got a whole bunch of different sizes. And they're all made exactly the same way. Bits of timber cut to length. Put them in like that. Get a bracket. Now you buy these from a hardware store for a couple of dollars each. You put them in like this. You screw them together at the 4 corners. You get your material. Okay. You stretch it over it. Okay. And then with tape, you just tape it down. Tape it down, make sure it's got a bit of a stretch to it, and you're done. If you can afford the Lee 216, I would recommend it. Otherwise, get yourself some baking paper. That works really well. I hope this video has helped you see the kind of things you need to keep an eye out for to try and collect along the way. If you are going to do this as a profession, then it's best to start collecting these things along the way. And if you're lucky enough to be doing this as long as I have, you will accumulate a lot of this stuff as you go along. Good luck with your journey. Thanks for joining us. I'll see you in the next one.